Hello and welcome to Divisive Issues, but if you're listening to this, you probably know already because you're listening to our bonus episode.
Yes,
Wow!
This is our first
Hey.
Patreon bonus episode. So
Wait,
first
guys,
I want to say...
what's a boner episode?
It's what we have when no one's listening, so now we're going to reveal it to our friends here for the first time.
So I want to thank everybody for donating. That's so cool.
Yep, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Thank
For
you.
your
I'm
patronage.
sorry for my immature joke. If you want to slap me, an extra $5 and you get to do that.
If you want to unsubscribe, please don't. We'll do better. We'll fire Bill.
Yep, because now we're beholden to you.
You can pay them to hit me.
Yes,
Ooh,
exactly.
yeah.
Pay us more, and we'll pay Phil.
You're part of our elite Divisive Issue Boner Club.
Oh, no.
So
I was like,
what
no, it's not happening. So,
what have
Yeah.
you chosen for us, Sly, for our debut?
all right, so for a little bit of outside context, we were playing this and recording this when we did the Green Lantern Kami episode. So when we were doing that, we found this JFK cameo appearance in Superman, and we wanted to cover it for the episode, but now we're going to cover it for you guys, and you're going to get the special Divisive Issues treatment. The full...
Well, we didn't cover it for the episode because it's actually just a bad comic.
I disagree.
We don't read bad comics on this show. So.
That has this weird perception. He always comes saying, I don't want to read this because it's bad. And I'm like, what podcast do you think you're on? Like, what made you think we do only good comics? I don't know.
So, okay, I want to give some lore, not on the book, but on us.
What?
So, this
I
comic...
hate when it's like our continuity.
Are
So
you
this
revealing
comic-
personal information about
Yes,
me?
I am. So this comic came out in February 1964. It's Action Comics 309. And Daryl said, and this is a fair mistake to make. He said, "Oh, I think this is my first Golden Age comic." And we said, "Oh no, you poor child.
You sweet summer child.
The Golden Age is the 30s and the 40s and the early 50s. The Silver Age is the 60s." Daryl said, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And then he said, "Wait, you guys lied to us. This says Action Comics 1938. It's definitely Golden Age." We said, "Daryl, JFK is the president in this story. That's when Action Comics #1 started. How would this be 1938 if it's JFK?" And Daryl said, "Oh yeah, you're right."
For me, I wasn't thinking of JFK. I was thinking about the art style because my conception of when comics began is that it was like super homely and nice and made for kids, and everyone was always smiling, and they looked like little dolls, basically.
Yeah. Well, I'll say I actually thought the same thing. What tipped me off, actually, because I didn't know this was JFK, was when they asked Superman, "Can you go pick up from our last rocket launch the thing we dropped?" And I was like, rocket? 1930?
Rockets exist. This has to be 60s. But it's important that Phil and Daryl bring that up because we mentioned like Golden Age, Silver Age stuff before, but this really illustrates the point. Well, most people assume as like comic book stuff, like the really bright pixels and colors and stuff like that.
Pixels?
A lot of that, not pixels. I forgot what they call it. Pigments. The really bright
Colors? Yeah,
pigments, like pigments. Sure. Because like no, but you know, like whenever people parody the style, the color processing usually will highlight the pigments a lot because it was very simple, cheap coloring sometimes.
Yes.
So like I like forget the artist, like the pop artists will literally will have allusions to comic books to really up the size of the pigments to really show that it's a print process.
Yeah. So this is actually Kurt Swan, who's like he's like the definitive Superman artist.
Yeah, like
for like 20 years.
He drew like the most.
But yeah, if you're more interested in the like Golden Age, Silver Age divide, there's actually an episode in Comrade Classic of that I did with Malcolm like way back when. That's in the $1 Patreon level. So if you hear this, you absolutely have access to that if you didn't catch it a year and a half ago or whenever, however long it's been when you're listening to this.
Yeah, but long story short, comics start out like comic strips, became like detective comics kind of stuff, like little detective comics, not Batman detective comics.
And the art was not refined back then. The art was much more raw and like loose and much less like sharp and refined.
Amateurish more, like, because a lot of
Yes.
it was amateurish submitting their works to books. And then Superman came. Even when Superman came, they were popular for a while, but back then, now I take it for granted, but superheroes were viewed as a fad in comics. The thing that cemented them, because after they became big, eventually westerns took over, westerns became more popular, crime stories became more popular, horror stories became more popular. Like, comics became much more diverse, but the thing is, during the 50s, which is what Ryan talks about, they had a big scare, like we have the rock scare, video game scare, where we're like, this is corrupting our youth, we have to censor this. So they censored comics, and basically the only thing that could survive in the standards was very cheesy, corny superhero comics. So even the comics that were dark, like Superman used to fight wife beaters and corrupt politicians, Batman used to murder villains, they all became whitewashed and clean and colorful, and that's the only comics that existed at that point.
Yeah. So this is February 1964.
Yeah.
And this issue is pretty actually important for a couple of reasons. One, first appearance of Pete Ross as an adult, Superman's
really?
childhood friend. This is the first
Oh
time he
my
was reintroduced as a grown-up.
What?
More
But I was saying, oh my
importantly,
god, but if you like
Sly
Superman...
with that genuine reaction. Of
that was Lex
Pete
Luthor's
Ross.
vice president.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Also, there's Super Horse in this, and
Yeah, I was about to
Streaky
say.
and Super Monkey.
That I was just about to highlight that it starts out saying this issue starring Lois Lane, Lana Lang, Laurie, Jimmy Olsen, Supergirl, blah blah blah, Legion, Batman and Robin, Crypto, Super Horse, Streaky, Super Monkey, the lookalike squad of Kandor.
And the Jimmy Olsen fan club.
And by the way, Streaky is the super cat, but they don't call everyone's super horse, super this, but Streaky's just Streaky and Crypto. What the fuck?
But actually, more importantly, Sly, I wanted to talk about this because I didn't know you knew this, but it sounds like you knew it already. Why is this issue such a big deal when it comes to JFK?
Because this issue was released like it was on the newsstands as JFK assassination. It was
This
happening.
issue came out a week after he was
wow.
assassinated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a pretty landmark issue.
They didn't have enough time to pull it because it was like already shipping and everything. So a week after he was assassinated, this came out, and it's like, look at our fun president starring JFK, and like that's some noteworthy shit.
You know
think,
what?
to talk about.
I wonder. This is kind of cynical, but I wonder how much it helped their sales. The fact that it's like it had such a positive portrayal of JFK right at a time when people would be idolizing him most.
He's not on the cover.
He's not on the cover, so it's like a more.
I'm saying like
Yeah.
within it, like if like word of mouth being like, oh
That is actually they had one of the most famous Spider-Man, best-selling comics of all time, is actually right after 9/11. Spider-Man had a memorial issue where Spider-Man witnesses the events of 9/11. Like him and all their superiors try to rally together and try to.
That's when Doctor Doom cries.
Yeah, Doctor Doom cries over the death of all the people. But that issue actually had a black cover, and like it didn't make it clear unless you read it what was inside of it, and it became like the best-selling Spider-Man issue, like maybe not of all time, but definitely of that era, of that that decade. So like that really does help sales, like those commemorative issues. So maybe who knows?
But it's interesting because this wasn't like they had no idea that was going to happen. So like
Yeah.
it's not like a commemorative. It's so weird. First, it was weird for me seeing like just JFK as like the regular president because it's just been. You know, like I wasn't around, obviously, but also like I feel like JFK, we always talk about him in the context of the assassination, and seeing him as just like the pop culture president at the time, and then seeing that this was right when he was assassinated is like really, really interesting.
It's rare to see something contemporary by JFK. More often,
Yeah,
it's reflective.
exactly. So this is written by Ed Hamilton and drawn by Kurt Swan. So it starts with Superman getting a letter. But he gets it as Clark
Oh
Kent.
my god, he's such an idiot.
He's
This is so fucking
this is
funny.
absolutely ridiculous.
It's hilarious.
He says, he's like, a letter addressed to Superman in care of this office. People are always sending him mail because they know that Clark Kent is his friend. But this letter, it comes from the White House, from the President of the United States. And then he goes to open it, and Jimmy Olsen's like, hey, Clark, you can't open Superman's mail. That's a felony.
And then like Superman's like, "Oops, I thought it was me. I guess I'll give it to Superman." Like it's like and Lois is like, "I wonder if Superman is Clark
No,
Kent."
but this is even worse. It's so much dumber than that because he says, "Uh-oh, I almost gave away my secret identity." Another incident to bolster Lois's suspicion that I'm Superman. And then as he leaves, he like, rips open his shirt, he flies away, and then he goes, "No need to open the letter now. I read it with my X-ray vision." Why didn't
wow,
you fucking
that's
do that in the first place?
By the way, this is a lot of like what the Silver Age was. Like it was basically Lois. Like people say, like, why is Lois so dumb? She can't tell this guy with glasses isn't Superman. Like he puts on glasses, she can't tell. She could tell. It's just like Superman gaslit her all the time with stories like this.
It's actually it's extremely true. I didn't realize like back then that it was constantly like Lois and Lana Lang like trying to figure out that Clark is Superman. They're like, I think I have this idea, but it keeps happening where it's like Clark and Superman show up in the same place, even though
Yeah,
like
he actually has robots. Like this is like Lois actually knows. Like I know Superman has robots that pretend to be Clark Kent, so I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna
there's
find out.
so many people that know he had robots.
Yeah.
There are like 3 different people that are like, oh, you can't use robots, can you? Here,
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's-
Where's Clark Kent now, you motherfucker?
Oh yeah, we should mention the cover. 'Cause the cover's important because back then you'll come to the cover first. The cover came first.
Julie Schwartz was the editor-in-chief, and he had this idea: make a catchy cover, and then people will buy it, and then we have to just think of stories that fit the cover.
Yeah,
Wow,
so
what a fucking forward thinker.
yeah,
So that's why there's like Superman really fat, eating like 1,000,000 cheeseburgers, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh.
You know, that makes sense. You start with the twist first, and
yeah, it's
then
like
you work
it's
backwards.
like the clickbait of the old days. Like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the cover is like, oh, this guy's all my friends is here, but who is this guy's Clark Kent? And the splash page is Lois and Lana inspecting him with a robot detector, the Clark Kent that's meeting Superman. And he's like, wait, he's not a robot. What the fuck is this? Like, who is this guy playing to be Clark Kent? So, like, that's the big question is, who is this non-robot Clark Kent?
And then another way this story is ahead of its time. Decades before video games, Superman embarks on the first fucking trading sequence side quest.
It's not really like a trading sequence. It's more just like he keeps taking filler quests instead of doing his goddamn job.
Yeah, There's a TV show called Our American Heroes, and they keep asking Superman to do shit for them.
Like, drill into the center of the earth and mine sulfur for us or something.
Yeah, it's for a present? For a geologist?
So first, this is so dumb, because Perry White, Superman's boss, is on the phone. He's like, yes, Mr. President.
He's Clark
Superman
Kent's
doesn't
boss
suspect a thing."
as a newspaper editor, not Superman's boss, literally.
Yeah. So I'm gonna spoil why all these fetch quests are going on. What's really happening is they're trying to distract Superman long enough to prep him to be their first guest on the TV show Our American Heroes. So to really make sure he's not thinking about it, the president sends him on a quest to get a rocket cone from an astronaut flight to be honored on the show of Our American Heroes. So really hiding in plain sight.
And also JFK, after he does it, JFK is like, oh, thanks for the help, Superman. Thank you for the help, Superman. If you need any help, you can call me.
So he finds the rocket cone, and there's just a giant squid like fucking it or something. So he doesn't want to hurt the squid.
Its tentacles around it. We don't know its sexual level activity.
I assume. And Superman's like, if I punch the squid, he'll squeeze too hard. So he whirlwinds around and makes the squid fly into the air.
Which somehow it's like the squid's like fine with it.
Yeah.
I think it's like he's stunned, so instead of squeezing, his reaction is to try to get back to the water or something. I don't know.
And yeah, whatever. So he delivers the rocket cone to the White House, and then JFK is kept in shadow the whole time, as if we did it. But they explicitly say he's the president, and
and you can
it's
tell
obviously
JFK. It's very good silhouette, by the way. You can tell it's JFK.
Yeah.
Pretty clearly.
So he's like, "Oh, thank you for this honored gift. They will love it on Our American Heroes." Now, there's another guy on the show, Arkins, doesn't have a first name or anything. He's a cave explorer, and he rescued 2 children lost in a mine. They want you to get a gift, so that's when he like digs into the middle of the earth, and he finds a rare metal, which will be a fun gift for him. And then he gets back, and they're paying tribute to a doctor for his great medical discoveries. So he goes to the jungle and finds a special like herb that'll help with his research. And while he's there, like a cheetah scratches him, and he's like, he doesn't even notice.
It's crazy to me that Superman is capable of doing all this stuff for this like fucking show, this TV show. But like, wouldn't he just go and mine all the resources for like all of humanity's needs then?
Yeah, he'll appreciate having the plant for research for medicine, but like, why didn't he just do that?
Do that
it's
always.
crazy to me that he's able to do this, and it's like, are you sure there's not one crime somewhere in the world you could be preventing? Instead of
this is like something Sylvester Superman always there. Every issue was him like saying, "Oh, I'm gonna go to Africa and resurrect this fucking volcano and stuff like that for his local village." So he did do this a lot, but like, I guess you can't be doing this all the time.
Yeah, he needs to take care of himself first.
Yeah. Self-care.
You need to have a super day.
He has to have this sweet nectar of life before he can get out and do this.
But then he thinks, wow, I've had quite a busy day, rushing from one chore to another. Now the program director wants me in the storeroom, and then he's like, wait, this isn't a storeroom, it's a full TV studio, seemingly forgetting that he has X-ray
vision. Yeah. But I guess in this Silver Age canon, he frequently forgets that.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, I could have just done that.
Yeah. So that's when it's revealed that he's actually the pilot episode of Our American Heroes, because he's the greatest superhero of them all.
Oh,
and
Superman, you're so amazing.
And everyone was in on it.
And all these bonus episodes, I'm just gonna make fun of Superman.
Also, when they say everyone, when Ryan says everyone's in on it, it's like
Everyone.
a million fucking characters. Like, I was like, why won't this end? Like, who is this mermaid and who is this dog?
So
like,
of course, well, first we have to get into the conflict. So you hear the producer whispering, "Oh, did you notify Clark Kent, who I'm calling out by name for no fucking reason?" And Perry White's like, "I left a note at the office. I hope he shows up." And that's when Superman's like, "I gotta get one of my robots to come, otherwise they'll know. I'll use my super ventriloquism."
Yeah.
God, I hate comics so much.
Yeah, when I was reading this, I'm like, this is exactly what I don't want comics to be.
Yeah. So they're like, "Don't worry, we have lead-lined curtains. That's definitely healthy, and we'll come back to bite us in the ass."
Oh yeah,
Can
by the
you
way,
guess?
we should clarify. Back then, everyone had lead line and everything because everyone's like, I gotta make sure Superman doesn't see this. So everyone probably has cancer. Or something like that.
I'm wearing my lead underwear so Superman doesn't scope my dick.
Lead's not like asbestos. Like you would have to eat it or drink it to.
Okay, that's
I'm
good.
always eating Jimmy Olsen's underwear, so joke's on me. So he's like, what's behind this P curtain? It's got the big letter P on it. He's like, it could be Perry White, who I just saw in the previous panel. And he's like, no, it's Police Chief Parker of Smallville, the town where I grew up as Superboy. I didn't fucking know that in the Silver Age, everybody knew Superboy grew up in Smallville.
Yeah.
He did, yeah, because he was like actually active in Smallville, like that was his thing, and no one ever connects the dots that Superboy wasn't Smallville, Clark Kent.
This is where I was like, how have people, like, even with the super ventriloquism and the robots, like, how have you not realized that Clark, because Smallville can't be a big town, right? There's probably going to be like 100
It's
people there.
Smallville.
And then when Clark Kent leaves it, Superman leaves it. It's like, come
Well,
on.
it's because they're best friends, guys, and even though they're never in the same place at all.
Oh, I'm having lunch with him.
Yeah,
bye.
here comes a robot. I'm gonna
And don't worry, if you need to contact me, send letters to Clark Kent.
But the police chief shows up all these whittled statues, and one of them, my favorite one is this Bizarro Superman. Bizarro Superman is like Superman's imperfect clone. He does the opposite of what Superman does. So like everything's the opposite. So the statue they have of Bizarro is him getting spanked by Bizarro Boy, because when Bizarro Boy is bad, it's the dad who gets spanked. That's how it works.
And one of the things I wrote in the Discord is I was like, what does this say about the police chief that this is what he chooses his time to do and construct?
He makes two statues. He makes Superboy holding up the citizens of Smallville, like the Kents and his best friends. Very obviously, it's Clark
No
Kent.
Clark Kent, I see. Oh wait,
then-
No, yeah,
Yeah, there is a
there.
Clark Kent. But then also the spanking one. Like, those are the two he brings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so those are the
why,
only two
why,
most important ones.
why make a spanking one where it's your son spanking you, man? Why would you do that? What are you trying to say?
That's what he wants. Darryl, that's what he wants.
So then, and this is the dumbest thing, because everyone's always laughing about how, like, everyone in Superman's life has two letter L's, and he's like, they're like, it's a letter L, and he's like, he says it's a very lovely lass, and he's like, who could it be? Is it Lois Lane? Is it Lana Lang? Is it Superman's Silver Age love interest, Lori Laramis, who's a mermaid? It could be any of them. And then he's like, you're wrong, Superman. It's all three of them.
And meanwhile, Lex Luthor is watching this on TV saying, hey, I'm in LL too. Why wasn't I there? This is bullshit.
and then you're like, these guys really were lazy with naming.
Yeah.
But it's probably like this fucking Stanley named everyone alliterative because he couldn't want to feel like remembering everyone's names. Like,
But
Yeah.
why name them all L? I feel like that would be really confusing.
I agree. That's Superman writers at the time. I don't know.
Yeah. So then he talks to the mermaid, Lori, and she's like,
God,
Lois
this-
and Lana
This
are as
stupid-
thick as thieves.
This whole stupid comic, it's just like they're just constantly like barraging you with concepts that you're like, sure, I guess this happened, because the mermaid reveals she has psychic powers and she can read thoughts, and you're like, yep, okay, all right, you
No,
got
but
it.
Lois and Lana are shielding their thoughts, and he's like, "Thanks for the warning. When these two rivals join forces, something's wrong." Apparently, Lois invented a like robot detector. That they borrowed it from Professor Potter, whoever the fuck that is.
PP.
And she's like, this can detect, so if if Clark Kent shows up, we'll know that it's a robot. And Clark Kent's like, fuck.
So he's like, I gotta think of something quick while I'm doing all this other shit for the show to make Clark Kent show up without being a robot.
So then a spotlight breaks and almost falls in the mermaid's tank, which, like, having an electric device fall in her tank, that's pretty dark. But luckily, Supergirl shows up and saves the day.
Then she shows up along with Super Horse, Streaky, Crypto, and Super Monkey, and they show up and they have a big circus carnival.
I am definitely quitting the show after this.
And then what's great is after that scene, they're gone. That's it. They're done.
Yeah, they're gone. So then he's like, what's behind the letter K? And somebody's on at home watching, and he's like, it can't be Crypto.
The
because
super
Crypto
dog.
was just there with the other pets. So then Superman's like, who could it be? And then it's the Kandorians from the tiny shrunken city of Kandor, shrunken by the space villain Brainiac.
Yeah, Krypton had a city that got shrunk down and used as like a model city, and Superman found it and saved it.
I knew about Kandor, but I didn't know about this fucking concept. What happens, Daryl?
It's as they're flying, it's little people, and they're the famous look-alike squad, a club of Kandorians that look exactly like your friends. friends, Lois and Perry White, and you. And so he's like, oh, Clark Kent look alike, and it's Clark Kent with glasses, and it's like, I could use him. It's just that he's small.
Yeah.
I love the idea that look-alike Clark Kent like gets context once, and everyone's like, "Fucking Superman."
I never realized this. How did he not wake up in the middle of the night, like, and see, like, wait, you got my glasses exactly like Superman. Holy shit.
Well, because apparently every fucking month there'd be a new issue where they were like, "You're definitely Clark Kent." He's like, "No, there's this other reason why it can't be." And like, think about if you suspected somebody's secret identity, and every single month you saw them in the same room together. Maybe you would be like, it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, which is why I love that this has gone on for so long that Lois has figured out he uses robots to be Clark.
Yeah. So then it's a letter P.
Yeah, let it be.
And Superman thinks, is it Perry again? No, it's Pete Ross. So this is when Pete Ross is reintroduced.
Pete Ross, who is Clark Kent's best friend from Smallville.
Yeah, and he even says like, "Oh, I remember all the times like my family was like starving to death, so Superboy showed up with a bunch of food, and then they dug underground."
No, he dug underground for them. Like he's like, I can't.
Oh yeah.
Because they're like, oh, it's great Superboy's doing this for us, but it'd be great if we had money of our own. So Superboy's like, I'll help you. He goes underground and finds fucking oil, and Pete Ross becomes an oil tycoon.
So Pete Ross is from the Beverly Hillbillies, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that's the premise. And he's like, now I'm a rich geologist. Like, okay, cool. Then the Jimmy Olsen fan club shows up.
What the fuck is this?
So they show up with a lead box.
And it's like, we have a surprise for you. It's lead, so you can't see what it is.
So he opens it, and it's a block of gold. And they're like, we found gold, and we figured Superman will get it and give it to charity. And then the Legion of Superheroes shows up. We did an episode on earlier.
They're from the future. They time travel around, and there's too many of them to fucking keep track of. And they show up, and they're like, "Wait, that isn't gold. It's gold kryptonite."
No, and who says that? Element Lad. He says, because of my ability to analyze elements, I can see that's not gold, but gold kryptonite.
I love he reaches out of their space, their vehicle
It's
bubble.
a time sphere.
And he just zaps it and turns it to platinum.
And he's like, that way it's still valuable.
As if Superman can't just go and mine all the fucking platinum he wants.
Yeah, and gold kryptonite, by the way, back then they had a different, because when the kryptonite came out, it was such a hot new thing. Like, oh my god, Superman has a weakness. That they released all these different colors. Like, red kryptonite makes him turn to multiple people. I forgot all the different effects. But they all did different crazy effects. And gold kryptonite makes him lose powers. And back then...
Forever. Gold
forever.
kryptonite makes you lose your powers forever.
Well, they really messed up here, this kid.
Yeah, and by the way, and that's my other point. Back then, it was so common. People would regularly do this. People would be like, "Hey, Superman, I found this rock," and like it was so common. Kryptonite was so common. Like they actually had a story arc in the Bronze Age where like Superman makes a ray, destroys all the kryptonite on Earth, to basically make it so like now you don't step over kryptonite every 5 seconds.
It's actually the best. It's the best pre-crisis Superman story.
Makes sense because he would do that.
I was wondering about that too, because I'm like, when I saw this, I'm like, he must be a plant for like some supervillain, because who just accidentally picks up gold kryptonite?
Everyone did back then. Everyone would just write, like there's actually a story. The first Bizarro story was Bizarro's falling to his death, and Superman goes to save him, but then a rock nearby just happens to be kryptonite. Oh shit, I can't save him now. I guess he's fucked.
But even then, they're like, Superman, you were a second away from being permanently depowered. And we're on a show talking about how you're the greatest superhero of all time. And the kid goes, oh, you want to boot me out of the fan club for this, boo-boo? And Superman's like, don't worry about it. It's a natural mistake. Jimmy's made them plenty of times, right, Jimmy, you piece of shit?
That'd be funny if like the episode to honor Superman will be like the last Superman event ever.
Also, I have to say, this next part is so
He
dumb.
was brought down by the fucking Jimmy Olsen fan club. Lex Luthor's in jail. He couldn't do anything but this group of boys with bow ties.
So Superman's like, thank God, Chameleon Boy's here. He's my Deus Ex Machina. He'll turn into Clark Kent, and it'll be fine. And they're like, uh-oh, there's an alert that there's a crisis in the future. We have to return at once. It's a time machine.
Yeah, at once. It's like, that's not how that works. You can go whenever.
Well, that's how time machine. Every fucking DC time travel story is like this. It's always a fucking time crunch somehow. I don't know how it fucking works. Somehow it's like simultaneous at the same time. It's like another dimension that this.
It's like time crunch and kryptonite rocks are just everywhere.
And then they introduce this next way to get out of it for no fucking reason.
Wow.
Where Pete Ross is thinking like, wow, Superman looks worried. Is it possible that he's on a spot? He doesn't know I've always known that he's Clark Kent. One time I was watching him change and I found out he was Superman when we were
I
camping.
just happened to be watching him change.
So Smallville people did know.
Yeah. But he's like, but I'll never tell him. And Superman's like, who can I call in for help? And the narration's like, ironically, the only person that can help him, Superman does not know.
And literally he says, like Pete Ross says, well, I won't help him because he'll have his robots do
Well, to be
it.
fair, I think that the point is to like set up a bunch of possible candidates for the final Clark Kent.
I know that's what it is, but the writing is just so bad.
So dumb.
Yeah.
So then Superman's like, I've got it. Batman will do it. I'll summon him via my super ventriloquism. And then he uses. So at Silver Age, Superman's so overpowered, but I didn't realize he could X-ray vision across the whole fucking world.
I
So
didn't
he's like,
either.
there's nobody in the Batcave. Where can they be? And they're like, don't worry, Superman, we'll distract you with this curtain that says B. And he's like, oh no, I hope it's not. It's Batman and Robin. And they're like, don't worry, Commissioner Gordon gave us the day off.
Wait, guys, can Superman not just X-ray vision through the world, but also he has infinite like telescope vision? Like, can he see everything?
There's actually a power. Yeah, it was called telescopic vision. He actually.
Okay, well, whatever.
It's like I said, they come up with anything and they're like, this is like canon now.
Telescopic
This is
vision
his
actually makes
ability.
sense if he can heighten his hearing to hear far away. He could, and he can zoom in. Like, why wouldn't he be able to zoom into his eyes? Honestly,
It's just crazy that you can zoom across the planet.
that is, but like that's kind of like the gods Superman they have in like
Yeah.
Superman Returns, where he's
The
just
same story where he got rid of all the kryptonite, they also like really depowered him a lot.
so Superman's like Superman, even though it's considers a possibility that maybe afterwards Batman will unmask and become Clark Kent. But then Batman shows up and he's like, "Hey, let me show you how I look like my mask, Lois." And
Oh my god,
Dumb.
it's so good!
and it turns out he's a Bizarro actually, but he's like, "No, I'm not Bizarro. I'm actually wearing Bizarro makeup." Ha ha. Now you can see what Bizarro Batman looks like. Ha ha ha.
And then Lois is like, good, now he can't take his makeup off.
That would take an hour to remove. Batman couldn't do that. And I just love the idea that Batman's like, hey Lois, you've always wanted to know who I am. I'm Bizarro. Ah, fuck you, I'm kidding.
By the way,
Why?
Later on they actually did have a Bat Bizarro, and I think he's
Bat Zorro, his name is Wayne Bruce, and he's the world's poorest man and the worst detective.
Am I remembering it, or did he kill his parents and that's why
I think he killed his parents.
Yeah, so yeah.
Comics are so, there's like higher level. This is like 4-dimensional thinking here. Yeah. Chess.
40 chess
then-
for idiots.
So then finally, Clark Kent shows up, and Lois and Lana are like, it can't be. And she's like, I'm hitting him with my robot detector, and it's not beeping. Or is our theory about Superman wrong? And then it's up to the reader to guess. So, did you guys know who it was?
No.
Me?
I didn't
No.
know the premise. I ignore you guys when you tell me what to read, so I go to the comic and I'm like, let's see what this is.
I feel like
Yeah.
just this passive observer, just like I'm not fucking gonna do any guessing.
So Superman's like, thank you guys, it's been such an honor. And then afterwards, he meets with Clark Kent, and it's JFK wearing makeup. Which, if you could just pick anyone to put on a mask and makeup, like all the other people looked like Clark Kent. For here, he's just like, I'll just have anybody do it.
No, but the thing is, he can't, all people.
Yes.
He has something that he can trust. And JFK, if he could be trusted with the nation's secrets, he could be trusted with Superman's identity. And as Superman says at the end, I knew I wasn't risking my secret identity of you. After all, if I can't trust the president of the United States, who can I trust?
But this is
Wait
like,
for Nixon.
yeah,
Wait for Trump.
this is kind of like so sad to me because like America just watched their president get murdered, and then Superman's just like, wow, he saved even Superman, and he's the most trustworthy, like lawful good person in the world. And like that's kind of tragic.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really tragic.
It's also just like sad thinking about like how Sly said that it's like nowadays it's a weird idea, like trying to put your trust in the government into a kid's comic book.
Yeah.
But that's like what we were saying at the very beginning. Like in the Silver Age, the government literally said you have to do that. You can never put people of
yeah.
authority as villains.
Yeah, and this is why Superman got the reputation like that in Dark Knight Returns and stuff like that, where he was the government's puppet, and like Batman was like the upriser trying to go against status quo.
But keep in mind, this is the same Batman that in the Silver Age needed to ask the police commissioner for the day off so he could
yeah,
visit his
that's why
friend.
it's funny. Like it was really like an alternate interpretation of Batman anyway, but that's when I took off. Like this dorky Superman and rogue Batman.
So, as it is our special Patreon episode, do we have any sort of special, like, final judgments type
Wait,
thing?
Well, first we just say like what we thought of this issue. I'll go last because I'm gonna surprise you all. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, surprise.
I thought this was bad. But
That's it. Nope, end the episode. That's
No,
it.
like,
That's actually all we need.
It is poorly written. The mystery is so dumb. Like, everything about it's dumb. But I have a soft spot for like camp, and one of the things that I like about like Silver Age Superman is it's like it doesn't walk that line that we talk about on the show a lot, being like really awkward, where it's like half serious and half not. Where like I could just read this and laugh about it and not like really think about it at all. Like, it's not like in other episodes where it's like you're so close, but then like there's this weird chipmunk there, or like whatever, like Chipmunk Green Lantern or whatever. But like this, just it really like works for me as like if I was a 7-year-old kid, I would love this. So I like it, but it's bad.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of, like I said earlier, what I dislike about comics is pretty much like crystallized here altogether, where it's like it's really optimistic and it just wastes my time. So I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I also disliked it for those same reasons, especially because of how much of this episode is just, or this issue is just, here's a character and then another character. You know this character? Remember the mermaid? And it's like, I don't
remember
know
the small Superman people.
I didn't even know about half these people, and I'm like the biggest Superman fan anybody knows.
That's why it's fucking funny.
Yeah.
Is that your final thoughts, Sly?
My final thought is I love this comic. I think it's great. I think I ironically like it. I think a lot of the stuff was made to be funny, and I think this succeeds at being funny. So I think it's a good comic.
It is funny, I will say.
Like this wasn't meant to be like at this time. Comics were meant to be daring or edgy or ambitious, and a lot of writers, what they just made funny stories. And there are bad Golden Age, Silver Age stories. I don't think this is one of them. I think this is funny. I think it held my interest. I read it, and I've read a lot more.
That's true. I wasn't bored at all.
Yeah, it does have an interesting like main conflict.
And one thing I want to point out is this is back then there were 2 stories in each issue, so that whole thing was like what 12 pages, 13 pages.
Yeah.
Like it's not that.
You
it's
got
not that
money's worth
long.
back then.
It might be an extra-sized issue, but
Yeah.
it's like you would get this and another story for what, like 12 cents?
And there's also a comic strip with Super Turtle about him trying to save burning building by flying it over to the fire department.
And that like you would get a lot, and it was like fun and silly, and like a lot does happen. Like every page there's a conflict and a resolution.
Yeah, I think for what it is, like to entertain kids, like I think this is, and I think even for adults, like this is humor and just being how goofy it is. I actually like it. So
yeah.
as for Sly likes fun campy stuff.
Yeah, I like that you both like bullies getting murdered in horrific ways, and then just like they have a robot detector. What is Superman gonna do?
Well, it turns maybe people are more complicated than you think, Daryl.
That's true. That's a good note to
They
end
can
on.
disappoint you in so many different ways.
Yeah, like Sly can just be an idiot. He can hate everything good and like everything bad all at once. Like it's amazing.
I hope you guys enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Silver Age Superman. And if you want to hear any special Patreon issues, you know, we're open to a lot of stuff, so you should reach out to us. You guys give us money, so we'll listen to you more likely than just some randos on Twitter.
Yeah, I'll basically do anything for money, so whatever.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you again so much for donating. That's like the super coolest thing.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, thank you. I've been LL.
I'm not really Ryan. I've been the Ryan from the lookalike squad of Candor.
I've been super horse. I mean, super monkey. I mean, super dog. I mean, super streaky. Sorry.
Yeah. Got it right.
And I'm Bizarro Daryl, and I like this comic.
Stay in Patreon mode.